first night,
This
like the
conference will
second
now be
night,
recorded.
there was, when you go to Israel, you put an app on your phone which will alert you if there might be an alert coming soon. It's like a pre-alert. Yeah. So there was a pre-alert on our phones, and the apartment that we were staying at, we were sleeping in the mamad. Mamad is a fortified room that all the newer apartments used to have to go downstairs to the miklat. Right now, all the newer apartments, every apartment has a fortified room called a mamad, and people use the mamad as a bedroom. So we were sleeping in the mamads. That was easy enough. Nothing followed. The next morning, at the very end of davening, again there was a similar alert about a possible alert, and the reaction of all the Israelis was "Hoppa, hoppa!" Yeah, and there's it's amazing. There is just this incredible resilience that people have, and restaurants are full, and stores are full, and malls are full, and minyanim are full, and bati midrashot are full, and everyone's living their life, going on with life. And if there's an alarm, so you go into the mamad, and then you come out, and then you continue. So there really is this amazing resilience that we felt in the country, and yeah, it reminded me when I was in yeshiva in Israel post high school, and my parents would call, and then calling was not easy. There were no cell phones, right? We heard there was an attack, right? And I said, everything's fine. We're fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. After a while, I called my parents, and I heard there was a mugging in the subway. Right? I grew up in New York. I heard there was a mugging in the subway. I said, oh, no, we're fine. I said, exactly, Dad. That's how it works. So, yeah, yeah. But it was an amazing trip for Natalie and I. In that it wasn't like a little visit. When you go on a visit, you have to run to place. You have to see this person and see that person, and hello goodbye, and run. And there we actually we lived there for 2 months, and it was able to go at a normal pace, and we got to see almost all the people we needed to see, and but we also got to live. So it was a wonderful thing. Right, right. Okay, Tu B'Av. The Gemara says, and let me switch over. Hello, Janet. Let me switch over here so I could help you with this. And the Mishnah says, we'll have it. You have it both in Hebrew and in English. Amar Shimon Gamliel, the first page over here. Lo hayu yamim tovim liYisrael. There were no days as joyous. Interesting. Yomim Tovim means a Yom Tov is a good day. So these were the best days. You have both Hebrew and English over here. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said there were no days as joyous. And again, Yomim Tovim, I don't know if necessarily means joyous, but I think it might more accurately be these were the best of days. So what are the best days for Yisrael? Chamisha Asar Ba'av, the 15th day of the month of Av, which was yesterday. Sure, everybody had a major celebration yesterday. Don't tell me you didn't. I'm sure everyone had crazy celebrations yesterday. Tu B'Av and Ukiyom Kippurim and Yom Kippur. So the two greatest days, the Yomim Tovim, the most joyous, as they're saying here, were Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av, Tu is Tet Vav, which is the letter Tet, the letter Vav, which numerically adds up to 15. So Tu B'Av is a reference to the way that we write the 15th day of the month of Av. So we know the month of Av is a month of tragedy. It's the month, we have the 9 days. We have the destruction of the first temple and the second temple, right? And the fall of Beitar, which we'll get to a little later in the Gemara, right? That's Tish'ah, the 9th of Av. Tish'ah means 9. Tish'ah B'Av means the 9th of Av. And then somehow the 15th of Av is the greatest thing since, I don't know, Reese's peanut butter cups, right? Right? It's this amazing, amazing, amazing day. And Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is also an amazing, amazing day. Yom Kippur, remember when Allie and I were dating, so we took one of her parents' cars, we went somewhere, we parked under a tree, and unbeknownst to us, many, 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 many birds lived in that tree. And by the time we came back to the car, we left a green car. When we came back, it was more like gray and white. It was absolutely repulsive. So we drove to a sorry? Yeah. So we drove to a car wash, and they looked at us and said, "You can go through twice, right? Right, 2 for the price of 1, right?" But we went in with this incredibly filthy car, and we drove away with this clean, sparkling car. That's Yom Kippur. That's Yom Kippur. We go in there with all that we're carrying from this past year, all of our indiscretions in whichever way they might have manifested themselves, things that we did, things that we heard, things that we saw, things that we said, whatever it might be. And then we come out glistening clean. However, what is this Tu B'Av? Hopefully, yeah. What is this Tu B'Av? So the Mishnah goes on. Shebehen benot Yerushalayim yotzot. The daughters of Jerusalem would go out. B'kli lavan, wearing these white garments. Shu'ulin. And everyone would have a borrowed garment. You were not allowed to wear your own. You were not allowed to wear your own. It had to be a borrowed garment. Why? Shelo levayesh et mi she'ein lo, so as not to embarrass someone who doesn't have a nice wardrobe. So if I'm wearing my own, so this one's showing off this designer and that designer outfit, like this, everyone has borrowed outfits. Kol ha'kelim tu'unin tevila. Okay, and all of the garments would then require immersion in a mikvah afterwards. So we're not so familiar with this, but when the Beit HaMikdash, when the temple stood, so then everything needs to be maintained in a state of ritual purity. Even garments can become impure, and we need to be immersed in a mikvah. And therefore, in order so we don't start asking, well, what did you do with the garment, right? Where did it touch? Who wore it? All the garments would require tevila. And what would they do? Immersion. What would they do? Benot Yisroel yotzot. They would go out, v'cholot b'kramim, and they would dance in the vineyards. Umayu omer, what would they say? Bachur, young man, sana einecha, lift up your eyes, ure'eh, and see. Ma ta borer lecha. Right? What are you choosing for yourself? Al titain einecha benoi. Don't look at the external beauty. Tain einecha b'mishpacha. Rather, cast your eyes to see what a person's lineage might be. This is what the girls that were not overly attractive, the Gemara explains, would say. Right? Sheker achein behevel hayofi. These are the last lines of the Eshet Chayil song that we sing on Friday nights. Right? The very, very end. The very, very end of Mishlei. Sheker hachein. Charm is false. Hevel hayofi. Beauty is vanity. Isha yirat Hashem, he titalal, a woman who fears God, that is what should be praised. Va'amru tnula mipri yadeh v'halalu b'shar ma'aseh. Okay, so the girls would go out and this would be a grand, I get all these emails, right, about these speed shidduch dates. Familiar with the speed shidduchim? Right? So, instead of having to be arranged to meet someone, you go out. How does it go? You sign up, and they have this whole algorithm to determine who might be good with who. And you have a series, I think, of 9 different people. The algorithm says they should meet. You meet for a total of 9 minutes on Zoom, right? And you just, yeah. I mean, some of that they actually might do it at tables in person. They also do it sometimes on Zoom, right? And afterwards, you say, who might you be interested in meeting again? And all of those that are both he and she are interested in meeting again, then they'll get together again afterwards. So this was a ancient Babylonian speed dating process over here, and many shidduchim would be made. Okay, so that's one thing that took place on the 15th of Av, and therefore it was a very joyous day, right? If you're going to be presenting yourself, you want to present with a joyous face. That's what people like to see. That's what people are attracted to. Remember, Saturday Night Live had, I think, Debbie Downer. Was that it? Yeah, right. Right. Everything was right. Anything possible was finding the negative in it. Right. So these are joyous days when all these shidduchim were being made over there. The Gemara goes into this further, and the Gemara says, and that's the second on the first page. That's again in Hebrew, and for English, those who are following English, you need to turn to side B of our source sheet. There you'll have it in English. Amar Shimon Gamliel. Lo Yom Tov Yisroel. Now the Gemara, as it does, it quotes the Mishnah and then it unpacks it. There were not joyous, happy, great days for Israel like Tu B'Av, the 15th of Av, Uki Yom Kippurim, and like Yom Kippur. The Gemara says, Bishlama, it is good. I understand Yom Kippurim. That was an exceptionally joyous day. Mishum Di'itbe Slicha Umechila. It's a day of, like we said before, forgiveness, cleansing, right? You come out sparkling clean. Yom shenitnu bo luchot ha'achronot. It was the day that the luchot achronot, that the second tablets were given, right? Moshe came down from Har Sinai the second time after the second set of 40 days. And Cheryl, those 40 days, everything went okay. So you see, right? He came down after those 40 days and with the Luchot Shniya, with the second tablets, which was the message of the sin of the golden calf has been forgiven. And therefore, that is the day that was established as the day of forgiveness for all time. So that I can understand, the Gemara says. Very clear. That is a day of great joy. Just one second. Let me fix this up a little better. Of great joy. Ella, but Tu B'Av, the 15th day of the month of Av, Maihi. What is that? And we're going to hear a number of different explanations, all seemingly pretty disparate, but then we'll try to tie them all together. And with that, we'll have a sense of what is truly a Yom Tov, a truly great day for the Jewish people. Let's hear the different explanations. Amir Shmuel, number 1, Yom Shehutru Shvatim Lavo Zeh Bazeh. That's the day that the Shvatim, the tribes, were allowed to intermarry amongst the tribes. to intermarry amongst the tribes. Why would there be an issue of not intermarrying amongst the tribes? Well, we know the story of the Torah about the daughters of Tzlafchad, right? Tzlafchad, their father, did not have any sons. So they came to Moshe and said, if there are no sons, why should the girls not inherit in place? Let me just interject here, right? The Din Torah, the law of the Torah is boys inherit, girls don't inherit. But before you jump on me, right, realize that this is the law and understand it. The law is once money from the estate has been set aside to support the girls until they get married, then any balance left in this estate is divided up amongst the boys. In the world then, the people who were earning were the boys, the men, and not the women. So the girls, the daughters, had to be taken care of, and then anything left in the estate would then go to the boys. Let's say there is nothing left in the estate after the girls have been taken care of, then the boys get nothing. Not only don't they get any Yerusha, any inheritance, they don't get supported. And the boys will need to go knocking door to door, collecting funds for themselves while the girls are being supported. Yes, Ala?
Did girls receive any, I don't remember the English word for it.
A dowry?
Dowry.
Yeah. Yeah. If the father died, then part of the estate also.
What if he doesn't die? The girl marries, then he gets a dowry.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
in the Katuba.
Nichse malug, nichse tzombarza.
So taking care of girls, meaning that they status, dowry is assigned to girls.
Yes. The dowry would be given to the daughter to bring into the marriage. Yes.
So if you get married and you have a ketubah and there's a big age difference, let's say, between the husband and the wife, and the husband dies, the obligation of the ketubah ends at his death, correct? So what would happen if the wife needed to be taken care of after
The ketubah takes care of her. The ketubah puts a lien.
Ends at his death.
No. The ketubah goes into effect upon his death. The ketubah is if he divorces her or if he predeceases her, then she will be taken care of by the estate until she, right, and she gets a lump sum of the 200 zuz. The ketubah is it's a good amount of silver, right? This is the ketubah goes into effect. It's pending.
So it gets activated.
Correct. If she predeceases him, then it never gets activated. It never gets activated. But if he divorces her, activated. If he predeceases her, activated.
What does it mean? I don't understand.
If he dies first,
Yeah, I understand. Where does money come from? From
the estate.
What if
an insurance policy.
What if it was poor and she's left without
So then,
community?
yeah, whatever happens when a person is
How
poor.
does that relate though with the trust and all of the things that people put in trust where you're saying the woman gets the estate, but let's say there's a trust where it states differently than that.
Okay, so there are halachic wills that a person can write. Meaning nowadays most people don't want to have the Yerusha go to their sons and not to their daughters, right? So there are halachic means. It'd be an interesting lunch and learn one time to go through how a halachic will would be constructed, right? Yeah, and there are methods that it's done. Coming back to the daughters of Tzlafchad. So Moshe said yes. Moshe conferred with God, and the answer was yes. The girls should inherit, and that's the din of the Torah. That's the din that if there are no sons, then the girls inherit. Then members of that tribe of Menashe came to Moshe and said, all fine and dandy, but, how are you? Good to see you. All fine and dandy, but, because these girls now inherited. Now, when the boys inherit, so the tribal affiliation goes after the husband, after the father. So therefore, the boys inherit. It all stays within the tribe, in this case, the tribe of Menashe. But they said, now what's going to happen? The girls inherited. They're going to get married. They might marry someone from a different tribe. And then who's going? Their children then will be of the other tribe. And our portion of the land of Israel is being given to our tribe is going to get diluted because anything that they get will go off to another tribe. Moshe said for that generation, they should only marry within their own tribe. Those daughters of Tzlachad should only marry within their own tribe. Let's use 1 minute. But it was derived that was only for that generation. And therefore, on Tu B'Av, on the 15th day of Av, the Beit Din concluded and ruled, Hutru Shvatim Lavo Zeh Bazeh, that in the future, there can be this intertribal marriages. That's not an issue. And even though there might be some swapping over of land as a result, right? If a daughter inherits from, let's say she had brothers and she married, and the brothers died, and then the father died, she's going to inherit. So then in such a case, if she marries someone from a different tribe, the land will swap over to a different tribe, but there will be some movement, but for the most part, the tribal property will remain with integrity. Yes.
Oh, no, never mind. Maybe I'm skipping a little too early or I'm rushing into it, but I don't know. I thought I read that during that time, only on Tu B'Av were they allowed to intermarry, but only on that day.
No, on that day, the ruling was reached that they can intermarry. Okay. Yes. So, 1 second, Rachel.
I'm just trying to understand the timeline. So since Moshe Rabbeinu's time up until the time of the Mishnah, like that's when Chazal was
No.
ruling, like what?
It was only that generation, right? So Yehoshua and his Beit Din, it would seem, would be the ones, right? The next generation. Yeah. Leah?
I thought that the ruling happened because of what happened with the Shevet Binyamin.
We'll get to that in a minute. That's a different story. We'll come to that in a moment. The tribe of Benjamin. We'll come to that soon.
So it didn't have to do with the inheritance or
No, that's a different story. We'll come to that in a moment. Yes, Dov.
At that point, when they come to Moshe, all the daughters were not married.
I'm sorry?
No.
All the daughters were not married. Correct.
That's right.
Correct. That's correct. Yeah. Yes.
The tribe wanted the tax basis to stay.
I'm sorry?
The tribe wanted the tax basis to stay.
I don't know so much a tax basis, but maybe. But I don't know if there was. I don't think there was a tax basis. But I think it was just a matter of wanting it to stay in the tribe. Yes.
Are there any prohibitions today to marry out of the tribe?
No, we don't know our tribes. Right? Meaning, if you're a Kohen or a Levi, you know.
Because I was divorced and a Levi, I could not marry a Kohen.
That's correct. That's correct. That's not because of an inter-tribal marriage. A Kohen has certain restrictions on who they can marry, and that includes a divorcee.
So that's different than what you're talking about.
Correct. That's a separate prohibition. Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
Well, this applies in a halachic society, which we live in.
Sorry.
Yes.
Right.
So would a person have been precluded from coming up with his own estate plan?
A person, well, it's interesting, right? In a Beit Din world, in a Jewish court world, right? So if it was done in a non-halachic manner, so then the Torah is saying the estate needs to be divided in such a way, and you can't go against that.
But even in Israel, as I understand it, they don't follow the halacha.
Israeli law is not halachic, right? In certain things, it might be, right? Be it marriages, divorces, right? That needs to be done according to in a halachic manner, okay? But Yerusha is not in that category. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's number one issue that happened on Tu B'Av. Let's go further in the Gemara, right? Both Hebrew and English, right? Number two, Amar Rav Yak, we also Amar Rav Nachman, Yom Shehutar Shevet Binyamin Lavo B'Kahal. The tribe of Benjamin, a very, very horrific event that we read about at the end of the book of Shoftim Judges is called Pilegesh Begiva, that a person was traveling with his concubine and he was no one was taking him in first, and he was taken in. He was hosted in the tribe of Binyamin, and the people gathered around demanding the girl. She was sent outside. She was violated repeatedly. By the morning, she was dead. And all of Israel came to Binyamin and said, you can't allow this to go on. And Binyamin, instead of turning them in, Binyamin sided, or Binyamin did not agree to turn them in. It turned into a battle of the other tribes against Benjamin, the tribe of Binyamin. The tribe of Binyamin was almost completely eradicated. An oath had been made, which was that no person should give their daughter to Binyamin, right, to the tribe of Binyamin, the remains of the remaining segment, whatever, of the tribe of Binyamin as a wife. And then they realized that they had gone too far, and we did not want to lose one of the 12 tribes of Israel. And therefore, there was a point when they said that, yes, Binyamin can marry into the Kahal. How is that? As it says, Ish Yisroel, the Jews, Nishba, swore in mitzvah, saying, Ish mimenu lo yitain bito v'Binyamin liisha. Right? They should not give their daughter to Binyamin as a wife. So how was that then rescinded? My darosh, amarav mimenu. Below mi beinenu, right? He can't give his son, right? For he can't give their daughter, but a granddaughter they would be able to give, right? The next generation it would be allowed. So again, this ruling was reached on to Ba'av. Number three, Rav Yochanan Yom Shekalubo Mete Midbar. That was the day after the decree that after the sin of the spies, that all of those who spoke badly and cried about not wanting to go to the land of Israel, they would all die in the Midbar, in the desert. So that was the day when that was completed. The last one had died. Before that happened, God did not speak to Moshe in an intimate manner. Shenemar says, Vayihi, and it was Kasher Tamu Kol Anshem L'Chamal Lamut, when they all had died, then Vayidaber Hashem Eli Hayadibur. So that was the time where that very, very painful chapter in Jewish history came to an end. And at that point, we were then able to continue on into the land of Israel. Ula Amar, Ula says, Yom Shebitel Hoshea ben Ela Paros Diot Shahoshiv Yirav ben Nevat Al Hadrachim shelo ya'alu Yisroel l'regel. Va'amar le'eza sheyirtzu ya'alu. Oh boy. Yeravam ben Nevat.
What about in the beginning?
I'm going to explain. When the kingdom, we had a united kingdom under David and under Solomon. After Solomon, when his son Rechavam was going to become king, the kingdom split into two. And there was now a kingdom of Judah and a kingdom of Israel. Judah was in Yerushalayim, the tribe of Judah, and Binyamin, and many Kohanim and Leviim, and the other tribes split off into the kingdom of Israel. Their king was Yeravam ben Nevat, and he was a very righteous person. That's why he was chosen to be the king. But one of the things that can take a person, as we say, the sages say, out from this world is kavod, is wanting honor. And Yeravam ben Nevat was afraid that when all of Israel would go up to Jerusalem for the pilgrimage holidays, one of the things that Nana and I did, we went to Ir David, the city of David. They've done new excavations, and we walked a 2,000-year-old road, which was the pilgrimage road. Those who were Ola Regel, they would walk up, coming from there, from the Silwan Valley, right, would come up, and that's how they would come to the Beit HaMikdash. Huh?
How long did it exist, the two kingdoms? How long did they exist? It was more than 2,000.
Yeah, but I think this road was built 2,000 years ago. Yeah. So the kingdom split. Yeravam was afraid. The new king of this new kingdom was afraid. All Israel is going to go to the temple, the Beit HaMikdash, for the holidays. And there's only one person who's allowed to sit in the courtyard. And that is a king of Israel, descendant of David. And he was afraid they're going to see Rechavam, David's grandson, sitting there. And they'll see me standing like a commoner. And they'll say, why are we following this guy? And they'll go back. They'll leave me. So what did he do? He proclaimed new holidays. And he set up golden calves in Beit El and Dan. And he set up pardosiot, he set up officers to make sure, guards, to make sure that no one will be able to go up from the 10 tribes to go up to Yerushalayim for those holidays. And this was, on this date, a king much later on, by the name of Hoshea ben Elah, who was a king of Israel, and he canceled these guards. And at that point, the Jews of the 10 tribes were able to go up to Yerushalayim, should they so choose, on the Shalosh Regalim, on the pilgrimage holidays. That happened on Tu B'Av, and therefore that's another reason why it is so joyous. Number 5, Rav Matam Hayom Shnit Harugi Beitar Likvura. Okay, we stayed a good part in Netanya, also a good part we stayed in a place called Sur Hadassah, where my brother has an apartment, and that's right next to Beitar. And Beitar is a present-day city in Israel, named after this ancient city of Beitar, and after the destruction of the second temple. So we had Bar Kokhba and his revolt against the Romans, which was unsuccessful and was put down. And the city of Beitar, the people there were massacred in mass, and they were not allowed to have any burials. So the bodies were there in unburied state. On Tu B'Av, that was the day Shenitnu Haruge Beitar Likvura. That was the day when we were able to go in there and to bury the dead in Beitar. And the sages say, Osa Yom Shenino Ruga Beitar L'Kavura, the day that was given for them to have their burial. Tiknu biyavna tova metiv. On that day, the sages in Yavna established the bracha of hatov v'hametiv, the one that is good and that does good. And that is the fourth bracha that we have of our Birkat HaMazon and our grace after meals, the bracha of hatov v'hametiv, hatov shlo esrichu v'hametiv shenitnu l'kavura. Hatov, that the bodies did not decompose as bodies do, and native, that it was a time for burial. Lastly, number 6, Rabbi Rav Yosef, the Amrei Travel, they say, Yom shepasku milichrot eitzim lema'aracha. That was the last day on the calendar when they would chop wood, chop trees to use that wood on the altar, on the pyre of the altar, to burn the different offerings over there. Tani, we learn, let's go to Omer, Mechamisha Asar Ba'av Elach, from the 15th of Av and on, Tashash Kocha Shel Chama. The sun gets a little bit weaker. It's not as hot. Here in California, I was very surprised when we moved here that September is the hottest month, right? On the East Coast, right, by the time you're reaching the end of August, it's already starting to cool off a little bit, right? And v'lo korten eitzim l'ma'aracha, so the wood would not be sufficiently dried out to be used on the altar. Levisha einan yeveshin, and it was called Yom Tavar Magal, the day that they would break the axes, so to speak. Meaning they would deconstruct the axes and put them away for the future. Why is that such a happy day? So we'll soon see how we could tie all these together. But when I was in yeshiva in Ner Yisroel, Rav Ruderman Zatzal was the Rosh Yeshiva, and the opening talk that he gave to the boys as we all began was, why was this, he asked this question, why was this a happy day? It's a tremendous mitzvah to chop the trees, to have wood, to prepare the wood for the altars. So why is that a happy day when that mitzvah comes to an end? And he said, even though it's a tremendous mitzvah, but the greatest mitzvah is studying Torah. And therefore now they had more time to study Torah. So that was his opening for as the Zman, as we call in yeshiva, as the semester began over there. Yes, Dov.
The towards the tree of life, so taking little limb by limb off of there.
Okay, interesting. Yes, Jan.
I kind of was thinking along the lines of Dov.
Okay. Great minds think alike. Okay. Yes. So these are 6 different reasons that are given why this is such a joyous day. The one reason given in the Mishnah was for all of the shidduchim, all of the marriages that would take place. Now, of these other 6 that we mentioned, so some of them were very much marriage related, right? Which ones were marriage related?
Zlachad,
right? Binyamin and Slavchad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's when we could marry into the tribe of Binyamin. That's when we could have marriages between the tribes, and we understand that that is a tremendous Yom Tov when we could have building Jewish families. So that we understand. The one about the breaking, the last one mentioned, that they're not going to be chopping wood anymore, right? So that was the end of that. So why, I gave a reason that I heard, but how would that fit into this idea? Meaning, this idea is that all of them have to do with the achdut of Yisroel. of the unity, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, sisterhood of Israel. Look, all of us coming together, all of us uniting, right? So I understand marriages, the three marriage ones, that's certainly about Achdut Yisrael. It's not that I can only marry within my tribe, I can't marry that tribe, right? But it brings everyone together. And the Mishnah spoke about also this tremendous Achdut. Remember, it had to be all borrowed garments. That everyone, it should be this level, this level playing field. Yes, Steve.
On a metaphorical level, the Shvatim literally are like branches, and you're not chopping, you're not splintering and breaking into pieces all the different chop the wood.
Okay, that's okay.
Can you please say in plain English? I don't understand.
I'm sorry.
What
What Steve said?
Yes, but he used some Hebrew words.
Oh, so he said so. So the question is, if we're going to present the idea, make the argument that this all has to do with Jewish unity coming together, how does not chopping the wood, how does that fit into this Jewish unity? Right. So he wanted to say that metaphorically, the tribes were all branches coming from the patriarchs and matriarchs, and therefore not chopping the trees might apply to that.
And the word for shevet or mateh, the language that the Torah uses for tribes, all come from wood, from branches.
A staff. Okay, that's an interesting idea. What this Rav Rafi Astroff proposed is very interesting. There were different, when we came back for the second temple, so there were a shortage of wood, and different families stepped up to donate the wood. Those who stepped up during that difficult time, they're the ones who then had the honor and the privilege of doing it in future years. They had the first dibs on bringing this donation. And these donations made during the year, the last one being on the 15th of Av. And who would do that? So there it was a family, the sons of Zatu, the son of Yehuda, along with Kohanim and Levites and someone who didn't know their tribe, right? In other words, this was a time where everyone could bring. Well, if it was anyone and everyone could bring on this day. So according to that, it wasn't so much that we stopped doing it, but this final climactic bringing of the wood was something that brought everyone together. And once again, that would be this Achdut. He explains the day that the generation that was going to die in the desert, when that finished, at that point, so then Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, were at their full, complete, ready, unified group to then enter into the land of Israel. About those of Beitar getting buried, so he quotes from Rav Kook an idea that along the lines of what Steve was saying before, that we are all connected, meaning we are all branches that are coming back to that same root. And therefore, if there is one person who is in a state of degradation, so then that reflects and that affects everyone. So Hatova Meitiv, he explains the one who's good and does good, it was good for them that they got their burial, and it was also good for everyone else also, because we are all as one. And when you had all of these Jews who were part of this rebellion, which we thought was Mashiach, even Rabbi Akiva thought that Bar Kochva was the Mashiach, right? Until he died. And once he died, then it was clear that he was not Mashiach. He did not usher in the time of Mashiach. So until all of them were buried, then we were all in a state of disrespect, all in a degraded state. So all of these aspects all speak about Yomim Tovim LiYisrael, the great day for Israel, because it's a day of Achdut. It's a day of unity, right? Now, unity does not mean that I will agree with everyone else. I don't agree with everyone else. I might not be in favor of certain things that they do, certain paths that they've chosen. But when it is my brother, when it is my sister, when it is my son, when it is my daughter, then that's not what I focus on. The story is told that someone came to a Rav and said, I can't stop speaking Lashon Hara. I can't stop speaking Lashon Hara. Help me. Give me some advice on how I could stop speaking Lashon Hara, speaking badly about someone else. So the Rav said to him, do you speak badly Lashon Hara about your father? He goes, no, of course not. He said, why not? Is there nothing that your father does wrong? Well, of course, everyone does some things that are wrong, right? But that's not what I focus on. And that's really the idea that we decide. Rav Noach says beautifully. He says love. He defines love as an active decision to focus on a person's positive points, and then I will love that person. If I make an active decision to focus on their positive aspects, everyone's got positive aspects, everyone's got negative aspects, right? Every single person on this earth. And this achdut is when we decide, I'm going to focus on the positive aspects that every person has. And I focus on that, and the world's beautiful. I'm surrounded by amazingly wonderful, beautiful people. I focus on the negative, I'm living in hell. I'm surrounded by the most lowly, disgusting. Right? It's the same world. It's the same world. So the Yomim Tovim LiYisrael is when we have this achdut, when we have this unity, which simply means focusing on the positive that we see in one another. And, when you speak to parents will always say, oh, I just want my kids to get along, right? There's no greater joy that I have than when I see this one is helping that one and that one's helping this one. When we were in Israel, my daughter Devorah moved to Florida. Her husband's going to school there starting, right? So Miriam from here flew to Florida because Natalie was away, couldn't help. So she flew to Florida to help Devorah with her move, right? They had to drive a car and a U-Haul from DC down to Florida. So she flew not to Florida, she drove to DC and got picked up at the airport as they were, and then they drove together down to Florida. And nothing makes parents happier than when your kids are taking care of one another. Same thing up above. Same thing up above. The greatest nachas that we can give Hashem, our Father in Shamayim, in the heavens, is when we are looking out for, taking care of, being kind, gracious, generously viewing one another. That is the greatest thing we could do. That is Yom Tov, and perhaps I could even say that becomes like a Yom Kippur. That then becomes like this tremendous atonement for us in terms of the nachas ruach we give Hashem. And we always say that the way we act, that is reflected back upon us from Shamayim, from the heavens. So when we're looking to do that, that becomes a Yom Tov of Yom Kippur magnitude and power.
So how do we transfer it from person level to the society?
What's your question, please? How do we transfer?
To the society in Israel. So it's interesting.
From
Look,
person level to
look.
society?
I can't change the world. I can change the world, right? Because every person is a world in and of themselves, and if I do my part, that's all that I can do. But I will say that when I was there in Israel, right, it was I was davening at a Sephardic minyan in the morning, and there were people of all walks of life who were coming in and coming out, and where I was, I sensed a nice feeling, of you know of I'm sorry.
It was a sad group.
Yeah, but even walking around the street, I would always smile and nod at everyone, and I got similar responses, even though it's not necessarily what people normally do there in Israel. But I figured this is a brother and a sister, so I would nod and say hello Yeah, you know, all we can do is be our best and hope that that will have a positive ripple effect, going outward. That's all we can do, and I don't think Hashem does not ask of us more than that which we can do, and within our circles, that's what we need. So we need to try to do. We got together with Yafi and Yassi. They came out. Yeah, they had breakfast with them. Yeah. Yes, Dov.
Okay, two things we're gonna do, and we'll read those based on Josh, and what are they? Faceless love and forgiveness.
And forgiveness. Okay.
And we will build it out.
All right. Sign me up. Sign me up. I'm game. I'm game. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Roger said it was very tacky if I would text you, but are you up to 2 miles a day?
We're working on it.
I was, go ahead.